Attention all stations, stand by for an urgent tsunami warning for the Big Island and the islands of Maui, Lanai, and Oahu. This warning is based on a 7.5 magnitude earthquake near Kailua Kona.
The threat of tsunami is not as distant as most of us think. Half a world away from the fishing villages of Japan lies the northwest coast of the United States. The town of Crescent City, California, shares a tragic legacy with Taro and Okushiri. People here can still recall their own encounter with a deadly wave. March 27, 1964. Good Friday. A violent earthquake off the coast of Alaska generates an enormous tsunami. The Pacific coast of North America, from Vancouver to San Diego, lies in its path. At 11 that night, Crescent City's Civil Defense Chief Bill Parker receives urgent news.
My first experience with a tsunami was a teletype that came into our office. It said that there was a probability of a tsunami and gave an estimated time of arrival in Zulu time. Well, we didn't even know what a tsunami was, let alone know how to spell it. And we certainly didn't know how to convert Zulu time to our time. And we were really devastated as to what the threat was and what to do. On March 27th, we received this teletype telling us there was a good possibility that Crescent City would have a tsunami. And we were really frightened.
But not everyone in Crescent City was frightened. Many were intrigued by the novelty and went down to the waterfront to watch the waves come in. Among them was Ray Magnuson.
I parked the car down by the entrance to the dock and left my wife there and started walking down the road. As I went down the road, I could hear a roar. Some guys said, hey, look, it's coming over the jetty. Well, I assumed it was the tidal wave coming over the jetty, which was not too good a thing to be hearing since I was not very far above sea level. I waited and watched, and pretty soon up the road you could see water coming. And then there was a cafe on the right-hand side of the road looking down, and the cafe slid across the road. I thought at that time, I said, I better get out of here. So I turned and started walking. The water was chasing me. I was still behind me, and I got back to the car. Anyway, the water kept coming, and as you know, Volkswagens float. Well, sure enough, ours began to float. You could hear the explosions up in town. As things began to be destroyed, you could hear things break. A big hunk of lumber stopped right in front of the car, made a breakwater, and the car just floated there. Water went out, and we drove away.
We had no idea of the extent of the damage, and we were all dumbfounded when we looked out there. We could not believe it. I gave a report to the director of emergency services of the state of California. He was giving a report to the governor, and I told him I think that Crescent City is gone.
The final toll, 11 people killed. More than $7 million in damage. And now we all knew a tsunami could happen anywhere. Not just far away, but right here at home. Three decades later, the people of Crescent City are better prepared. But unlike the Japanese, they have no seawalls, no computerized warning system, no video cameras guarding the town. If a tsunami struck here tomorrow, this town could be devastated once again. Was the Crescent City disaster a unique event? Or could another tsunami strike the Pacific Northwest? Giant waves are part of the oral traditions of many Native American tribes who lived along these shores. The Tolowa people spoke of one such event.
The grandmother told the two children to go right away as fast as they could. The two children ran as fast as they could. Upstream, away from the harbor. Halfway there, they looked back. They could see the water come. They could hear the people cry. They could hear the cries rise and fade away. When they reached the top of the mountain, the boy made a fire, and they sat around it. When the sun came up, everything was gone. They went back to where their house had been. There wasn't anything there. Everything was swept clean.
It's only a legend, but it may be based upon a terrifying reality. Just offshore and several thousand feet down lies the Cascadia subduction zone. It's a 900-mile crack in the Earth's crust, capable of producing powerful earthquakes. A tsunami generated here could reach the coast in less than 20 minutes. Near the mouth of the Copalis River in southern Washington, geologist Brian Atwater seeks evidence of just such an event. Evidence that would correspond to some of the ancient stories. The first indication of a catastrophe, a dreary grove called the Ghost Forest. These trees were flourishing some 3 centuries ago, when an earthquake caused the riverbanks to sink, and what had been high ground became a salt marsh, poisoning the trees. The same earthquake almost certainly generated a tsunami here. Atwater believes he's found more clues in the banks of the river, telltale signs embedded in the soil itself, revealing that this region was indeed flooded by a tsunami.
It's got a big piece of burned wood in here. I assume it's a campfire. We might have a fire pit coming out. It's here. So we got a 3-layer cake here. We go back 300 years or a little more to a time when this site was a forest. It had Sitka spruce, it had western red cedar, and it had native people who were cooking using rocks like this. The brown layer records the campsite and the forest floor. The gray layer represents the tsunami generated by an earthquake 300 years ago. The tsunami comes in, dumps the sand on the campsite. Then the mud builds up on top of the tsunami deposit because the land had dropped during the earthquake.
But this wasn't the only great wave to strike the coast of Washington. Atwater and other scientists have found more evidence of earthquakes and tsunami in the distant past.
There was a tsunami about 1,000 years ago generated in Puget Sound by an earthquake probably as large as the Kobe earthquake on a fault that goes right under downtown Seattle. During the earthquake, land was moved upward 20 feet. The floor of Puget Sound probably moved upward as well. If the floor moves up, the surface of Puget Sound up here moves up temporarily. It's 20 feet higher than it wants to be. Gravity takes over and you get a big wave. So that's what happened 1,000 years ago in Puget Sound.
And it could happen again. Scientists believe there's a 1 in 10 chance of a major tsunami striking the Pacific Northwest in the next 50 years.
Here in Washington, there are many places where people do not yet have enough information from public officials about what they should do in the event of one of these. They do not yet have posted the kinds of tsunami warning signs that one sees in Oregon now that help to direct a person, just sort of put in the mind every day as you drive past it. You see this on the Outer Banks in North Carolina, hurricane evacuation route. These kinds of signs need to be up on this coast. So in the event of one of these kinds of tsunamis, people think, oh yeah, I remember by that sign, it said go up that road. And there might be high ground far enough up that road, far enough away that you could survive the effect of the tsunami.
Brian Atwater isn't trying to scare people. He just hopes to raise public awareness. And the message is finally getting across. government officials have begun developing new strategies to save lives when the next tsunami strikes. The state of Oregon has recently drawn a line in the sand, establishing a 300-mile-long inundation zone along their coast. Because of the risk, no new schools or hospitals can be constructed close to shore without special permission. One town that lies within the zone is Cannon Beach. It's a quiet little resort town whose population swells to as much as 20,000 in the summer. Cannon Beach is more prepared for a tsunami than most towns, conducting regular tests of its warning system.
Test.
But they don't want to frighten the residents or the tourists, so the shrill siren is replaced with something a little bit friendlier.